How's it going, everyone? InnovativeJdawg here with yet another Dragon Ball discussion. There's plenty of unique techniques that Dragon Ball has to offer, but have you ever sat down and wondered which ones were the most useful and most powerful? In today's video, I wanted to list off just 15 of Dragon Ball's most powerful techniques to all of you. Keep in mind that the majority of this list is not in any specific order from least powerful to most powerful. Some of them have their pros and some of them have their cons. Before we begin, make sure to leave me a comment stating what you think are the most powerful techniques. So, without any further ado, let's start off with a few honorable mentions. Starting this list off is Spike the Devilman's signature attack, the Devilmite Beam. This technique is either hit or miss, mainly because it only works if its victim has any trace of evil within them. The main reason as to why I started this list off with this specific attack rather than any of those in the honorable mentions is due to how powerful this attack can be if actually executed. All of the techniques listed in the honorable mentions don't necessarily kill their targets. In fact, some of them can either be deflected or manipulated to still give the victim a fighting chance. With the Devilmite Beam though, if you have any trace of negativity or evil within you, you'll be as dead as doornails no matter what. Sure, it's not effective in any way on characters such as Goku, who we all know has a pure heart, but it's still a really powerful technique if used on the right person. I know that Monster Carrot is meant to be a parody character much like a Rayleigh, but you can't deny how overpowered his magic touch ability is. Better known as the attack that can literally turn people into carrots, Monster Carrot can simply execute this attack by touching someone, nothing more. And all he has to do to reverse it is clap his hands. He could use this attack on Beerus, potentially even the Omni King if given the chance, and there's nothing they could do to revert back to normal without Monster Carrot's approval. Why isn't this attack in the number 1 slot? Well, like I said, Monster Carrot is meant to be taken lightly as a parody character, and thus, despite his overpowered technique, it's just there to make the audience laugh despite how easy threats could have been avoided had Monster Carrot been there. Over the course of the Dragon Ball franchise, we've seen multiple characters switch bodies with one another to either raise or decrease their respective power levels. Whether it's Captain Ginyu inflicting damage upon himself so that Goku can succumb to the wounds within his body, or if it's Zamasu using the Super Dragon Balls to gain full control over Goku's powers in order to enact the Zero Mortals plan, body changing is no doubt very useful if strategized correctly. Being able to swap bodies with someone stronger than you, taking control of their techniques and power level is overpowered on its own, but if you factor in the idea that your opponent is now in a weaker body, this technique can quickly flip the outcome of a battle within an instant. Of course, this technique does have some drawbacks, as shown with Ginyu having trouble maintaining Goku's strength, but the concept of swapping bodies on its own is very powerful. Now hear me out on this. I know Hit's time skip has been countered time and time again by characters such as Goku and Jiren, but much like the body change technique, the concept of the time skip technique is very overpowered. When it was first introduced, time skip was shown to be nearly impossible to defend against as the user was capable of skipping over a certain amount of time, allowing them to move around and act freely within that time frame. To put it simply, Hit's time skip allowed him to seemingly freeze everything around him for a brief moment, including opponents, and attack them at will without them being capable of defending themselves or even sensing where he was at. This technique doesn't freeze opponents, but it makes it look like that's the case. There's a reason as to why Hit's been a very successful assassin in his universe, as he's basically capable of ending people's lives without them even knowing what hit them, which is terrifying. The Kaioken technique, invented by King Kai, has proven to be one of Goku's most helpful techniques over the course of the Dragon Ball franchise, as it's been the deciding factor in plenty of his toughest battles. Despite the heavy drawbacks of pushing this technique too far for their body to handle, depending on how strong the user is, we have seen the Kaioken get pushed to insane power multipliers and even get mixed with Super Saiyan transformations, increasing the usefulness of the state. On its own, the Kaioken initially seemed to do more harm to the body than good, as it was a huge risk to pull off despite the high reward that came from that risk. But as the years moved forward and as Goku grew stronger, becoming more tolerant of the Kaioken's stressful principles, the simple fact that this technique can be used to amplify other techniques such as the Kamehameha and increase the power of already powerful Super Saiyan forms, I'd say that the Kaioken is pretty formidable. I'll be the first to admit that talking about Ultra Instinct on its own is very tough and often brings up divisive thoughts amongst many fans, but I'm sure we all are aware of what Ultra Instinct is, as it allows the user to automatically dodge incoming attacks without needing to think about their movements. They're also capable of countering, as the Ultra Instinct ability at its core is the mastery of self-movement. While it's not the most powerful technique to ever grace the Dragon Ball franchise, it is one of the most versatile, as we have seen Ultra Instinct be utilized by characters, giving them fighting chances against multiple characters at once, and even characters that severely outclass them, simply due to them being capable of dodging on instinct. At the same time, this technique has increased Goku's fighting capabilities significantly through his 2 UI transformations, which no doubt made him one of the most formidable fighters in the entire multiverse. To me, despite there being many feelings towards Ultra Instinct in the 2 states that Goku achieves in the Tournament of Power, I think it has the most potential to be expanded upon in the future of Dragon Ball, and much like the Kaioken, can be pushed to even higher limits than we've already experienced. Some of you knew that this attack had to be somewhere on this list. Just the name itself gives off a very powerful impression, as it's not anything flashy, it's just a gigantic self-destruction technique that took Vegeta's life during the Buu saga. Despite the immense power gap between Majin Vegeta and Majin Buu at the time, Vegeta's final explosion attack was capable of blowing Buu apart into tiny chunks. Of course, he was able to regenerate, and Vegeta was left dead from this attack, but we have seen the Saiyan Prince utilize this last resort technique later on down the line. During the Tournament of Power, Vegeta in his Super Saiyan Blue evolved form utilizes the final explosion once more in order to ring out Toppo, who had just awakened his God of Destruction powers. Upon knocking Toppo out of the ring, Vegeta managed to survive the attack due to him getting significantly stronger from the time when he fought Majin Buu, yet it still drastically weakened him. The immense power behind this explosive attack is so powerful that it's been used on characters much stronger than Vegeta, yet it's been capable of overpowering them with relative ease, and now that he's capable of surviving it, the fact that he can use it more often is pretty insane. Gamma Burst Flash is essentially a much more powerful variation of the final Flash technique that Vegeta invented way back in the Cell Saga. First being used against Merged Zamasu in the Dragon Ball Super manga, the Gamma Burst Flash is shown to be incredibly powerful, even to the point of blasting the fused warrior into pieces, despite him being much stronger than Vegeta. Much like many of Vegeta's other attacks, the Gamma Burst Flash is nothing but pure strength that zaps a bunch of ki. Upon making contact with an opponent, it just completely demolishes them or severely damages them in the process. As of now, we haven't seen much of this attack, but considering it's now one of Vegeta's most powerful, I assume we'll see plenty more of it in the future, and possibly even see stronger variations of it. You all know that the Kamehameha or the Kamehameha had to make it on this list somewhere. Over the years, we've seen plenty of variations of the Kamehameha wave, and many of them have been extremely powerful, but rather than cluttering this list with a bunch of different variations of the same technique, I compiled them all into one slot. Being Dragon Ball's most iconic technique, the Kamehameha doesn't really need an introduction, but rather I wanted to showcase some of the most powerful variations of the technique. Whether it's the Big Bang Kamehameha used by Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, the 10 times God Kamehameha used by Goku in his Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken state, the Full Force Kamehameha utilized by Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta, or my personal favorite, the final Kamehameha used by Super Saiyan Blue Vegito, it's no secret that the Kamehameha is one of Dragon Ball's most powerful techniques simply due to how strong it gets once mixed with other techniques, and how much it can get amplified to severely demolish an opponent. Could you imagine being turned into a lifeless statue just by having some spit land somewhere on your body? Dabura's spit technique may be one of the grossest techniques out there, but it has been proven to be very effective on weaker opponents, as it completely immobilizes them and can take them out of a fight within an instant. Of course, this technique has been deflected by other characters such as Future Trunks, but if it were to make contact with anything, it's a very deadly technique. What can I say about the Stardust Breaker that hasn't already been said before? This attack looks awesome and has been very successful on those that it's been used on. Similar to the Devil Might Beam, the Stardust Breaker tracks down all of the evil energy within a person's soul and punishes it, hence the alternate name of Soul Punisher. Keeping it simple, the Stardust Breaker can either seriously injure its target or completely obliterate them depending on how much evil they possess within them. The reason as to why we saw Janemba completely disappear was due to him being made up of nothing but evil energy, whereas Broly remained alive after getting struck by this attack because he had some goodness within him. Not to shamelessly plug a video or anything, but I actually made a whole video covering the Stardust Breaker a while back, back, so if you haven't checked it out, I'll make sure to leave a link to that video down in the description so you guys can go watch it and get a full breakdown for this attack. Much like Vegeta's final explosion, the Spirit Bomb has only been used as the final attack meant to finish off an opponent for good. There have been times where the victim of a Spirit Bomb has survived, but when this attack actually works, it just feels spectacular. This attack makes everybody feel involved, including the audience, and it makes the impact of the attack mean so much more, whether it's successful or not. The Spirit Bomb can only be formed by a user who has a pure heart and can only inflict damage on those who have impure hearts, making it a very difficult attack to pull off and successfully execute. But despite all of the rules and drawbacks of this technique, we have seen multiple variations of it, and with each new variation, this technique is perhaps the most powerful on this list when it comes to the community's connection to the franchise, as it's one of the few techniques that lets you feel like you chime in and be part of the action. Correct me if I'm wrong, but every time the Dragon Fist has been used, aside from in the video games, it's always been very effective on its victims. Despite only being shown off in non-canon sources, the Dragon Fist is no doubt one of Goku's most powerful techniques due to how devastating of an attack it is. Not only is that imagery of the Golden Dragon iconic and terrifying on its own, but completely ripping through an opponent and destroying those much stronger than Goku himself just proves how powerful this attack is. There are just some attacks that you can't deny how powerful they are, and the Dragon Fist is one of the most powerful attacks ever used by Goku, whether canon or not. Nothing can get more powerful than literally wiping something from existence. The Hakai, also known as Destruction, is a technique that has only been utilized by gods of destruction in order to maintain balance within the multiverse by destroying things, ceasing their existence. We have seen Goku utilize a variation of the Hakai technique against Merge Zamasu in the manga, however we don't get to see him use the technique to its full potential. Unlike many other attacks on this list, there are no catches or drawbacks to this technique. Once you use it on someone, they begin to disintegrate into nothingness. However, there have been weaker variations of the Hakai technique displayed throughout the series, mainly used by characters who possess the energy of destruction. Most notably used by Frieza and Toppo, weaker variations of the Hakai energy have been used as defense, and have even been deflected or completely destroyed in combat. While the attack can be used in weaker variations by other characters, when it's used by gods of destruction, the Hakai technique is very powerful and nearly unstoppable. Zeno's Erase technique is no doubt the most powerful Dragon Ball technique to date. Despite being very similar to the Hakai technique, Erase cannot be used by anyone other than the two variations of the Zeno character, and its power is unrivaled by any other technique. With this technique, Zeno erased 6 of the original 18 universes just because he was in a bad mood, and he even used this technique to completely wipe Future Trunks' timeline from existence to defeat Zamasu once and for all. Despite the Super Dragon Balls being capable of recreating those that get erased by Zeno, this technique speaks for itself when I say that nothing else has been shown to be more powerful. Erase, as of this moment, is the end-all, be-all, most powerful Dragon Ball technique. There we have it, everyone. Those are just 15 of the most powerful techniques seen thus far in Dragon Ball. If there's any technique that you enjoyed that I might have left out, leave it down in the comments below. There's just so many techniques to talk about, and plenty of them are powerful in their own right, but I'd say 15 is a pretty big list to cover, wouldn't you? Thank you all so very much for sticking around to the end of this video, as I hope you enjoyed today's discussion. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video, as I appreciate every like. Have a discussion topic you want me to talk about sometime in the future? Make sure to let me know what it is down below, and also subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date on all my Dragon Ball content. Once again, make sure to share me around with all your friends so I can keep making more content at a much faster pace, but as always, thank you all for being a fantastic audience, and until my next video, I'll be seeing all of you later. Bye everyone!